What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Let's Dig podcast. So, we wanted to do something fun today, and we wanted to listen back to one of our old episodes. So, this episode that we chose to listen to today was really a catapult, honestly, of us starting this whole podcast. This was called Let's Have a Baby, which oddly seems to be like something that people say to us often. Have another baby, guys. So, we're going to listen back to Let's Have a Baby, which was from our season 1 podcast.
And you know what's interesting about this episode too is I remember when we had the whole concept of this whole episode. We're like, man, let's have a baby. What does that look like? And this was really birthed from the mindset of like, we spent all of our lives like being nannies to everybody else's babies, everyone else's dreams, everything that everyone else wanted to do. We steward that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And for us, we got to a point in our life where we're like, let's just have a baby. And we did have a baby around that time, but that's not what this is about. And I know
Right.
there's people right now probably gonna jump in the chat and say, why did you guys have baby? You guys make really good babies, which back then we used to call them zebra babies.
We
But I
did.
guess people get offended by that right
Yeah,
now,
that's
right?
not able to be done anymore.
Okay, well, we're gonna take a listen back to some things that we were saying back in 2019, I think. Yeah, 2019.
Yeah.
So we recorded this back in November 26, 2019. And here's why we're doing this. Because we realized there's so many things that was said then that's relevant even now. And
Yeah.
I wanted to even be encouragement to you guys that are listening, but also even to us right now that's listening to this again, because I feel like we honestly forgotten some of the things that sparked us then, right?
Yeah. And I thought that was why it would be such a great way to do just a fun episode of let's go back, let's listen to what sparked this whole dream, this baby of Let's Dig. This was the dream, this was the vision behind Let's Dig podcast. It was to say, hey, you have dreams inside of you, you have things that God's planted in your heart, and you can support other people's visions. You can do that. You can do that, but you also have a responsibility to take care of the things that God has birthed inside of you. And we just wanted to be cheerleaders to say, hey, go do those things that God's placed in your heart. Go do those things that you have dreams of. And don't wait until everything is falling into place. Don't wait till you have the money and the car. And because as adults, sometimes we think we have to have all these things lined up before we birth a baby. And we wanted to be cheerleaders to say, don't wait till everything's perfect. Go birth that baby. So let's check out the podcast.
Okay. All right, let's do it. All right, let's put on these headphones. Let's take a listen. All right, so this is it's gonna be interesting because I mean, this is 4 years ago?
Yeah, I'm so nervous.
Okay. So this is actually on our website for Let's Dig. Shout out to Buzzsprout, who's honestly hosting this for us. Like they've been amazing. Which these episodes have been sitting in for all these years, and they're still like monitoring everything for us, and so we're able to still see all the analytics. So if you haven't attached yourself to Buzzsprout, for those that are trying to start podcasts, we actually have a link too that you could jump on this. But let's go. Ready?
Let's go.
Let's do it. Okay. So here we have Let's Have a Baby. Let's take a listen. We're just going to fast forward around real quick.
Recently, I had an opportunity come up. A client of mine, I'm a hairstylist, and I have a client, and she has become a friend, and she asked me to help her fiance.
Mind if I do this in like fast forward, like
Do it. Yeah.
like chipmunk? Are you okay with that?
I mean, I sound like a chipmunk anyways.
Yeah,
It's fine.
facts. Okay.
She was starting a car detail business, and she was wondering if I could help her and her fiance with some social media stuff.
Which side note, you've gotten really good at it lately.
That is actually really crazy.
that's
I
crazy.
totally forgot he was the first business that I started with. But since then, I've actually served in the social media department at our church. I have learned a lot of social media
Yeah.
in the last 4 years. That's wild.
That's
I forgot
crazy.
that's where it started.
All right, let's continue. Actually, before we even go to that story, I wanted to kind of play the moment in this podcast that we released of why we even had this concept of let's have a baby. So this is the comment that we made back then, and we still believe that even now, but this actually even sparked even me right now. It just gave me inspiration hearing this. So you see the title, right? Let's Have a Baby. Why this title, Let's Have a Baby? A couple weeks ago, I was hanging out with some friends. No, not weeks ago, a few months ago, this past summer, I was with some friends, and they've been married for a few years now at this point, and they seemed like they were very bored. Really bored, and I'm hanging out with them at their
They
house.
actually told you that, right?
Yeah,
like they said that. Like,
they
we're
said, I don't know,
bored.
we're kind of bored. They said every week is the same. Every Friday is the same. Every Monday's the same. Like we just, every day after work, we always do the same thing. And I was
Right.
like, okay, well, oh, wow, you sound pretty bored. Yeah. They said, we're thinking about having a baby. And I stood there. I said, okay, yeah. First of all, that's crazy that I mean, that was a comment that was made back then. I actually don't even remember who that couple was, but I feel like people still feel that way till this day.
Yeah.
I mean, even right now, we're in the middle of that conversation, right?
We are in
You're
that
in a season right
conversation,
now
guys.
where you're feeling like you're a little bit bored, a little anxious, like you need something to do, and now you got this baby fever. Plus, I feel like everybody's having babies right now.
It is a big baby boom right now. They thought that COVID was going to make it have no babies, and instead it was more babies than ever before.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Okay, let's listen.
You guys should have a baby. And they're like, really? And at that moment, I thought, not a real baby. How about a baby like an idea, a dream, a vision, something that you know you're called to do, something that you should be birthing, but you're not doing. And I realized we've all gone through that situation. You know,
Right.
I'm kind of in that right now. You know, even when I'm birthing a baby, I still have all these other ideas and
Right.
visions that I'm sitting in. And that's why, as you guys heard in that the intro when Danny Lee was talking, I was so frustrated with her when she came to me and said, "Hey, I'm going to help these people with their project, or in other words, with their baby." And I'm like, they're birthing something, and you're so quick to just jump on their dream, their vision, their idea. And I was just frustrated with you. Like,
Let's talk about that. Like,
Yeah.
is that something that you feel like you still have to fight that tendency of like, whenever you want something to do, instead of birthing something, you feel like, let me jump on somebody else's project,
I
someone
think
else's
I-
baby.
I think I do still struggle with that. I also find myself, I've actually been digging into that of why is it so easy for me to believe in someone else's project or business than it is for me. I remember a few months ago, someone was telling me about a laundry service, and I had like 5 ideas of like, oh, what if they did this and then you did this and you did, and I was like, I don't even do laundry. Like, real talk,
Let's
you
pause.
do our laundry.
Yeah, okay. I appreciate that because I was going to have to pause this whole recording to talk about how I do, but I appreciate that because
You
I
do
actually
our
enjoy,
laundry.
I enjoy doing the laundry, especially like those little unstoppable seeds that
Yeah,
you can put
you're
in there.
really about the unstoppable seeds. Maybe we could get a sponsor from Downey.
Yeah, there we go. But,
But
yeah, let's talk about that.
but it still is a challenge for me. But I think in the long run, it is so much easier to jump on someone else's vision and execute it. And in a sense, I don't have any skin in the game. You know, like for me to think of and imagine of a purpose of a business and shoot for the stars and just launch out and go for it is way more intimidating when it's someone else's idea. If it fails, it's on them. I did what I could and I helped, but I'm good. So I do find myself, I think a lot of people think it's easier to push someone else's dream than birth their own.
Yeah, yeah. I was reading today of like, people. I feel like sometimes people get so caught up in the fear of losing that it trumps the excitement of winning.
So true.
Right? You lost because you never took a shot at it.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? And I know what you're talking about because that thought of just like, man, what if I do this and I fail and it doesn't work? The fear of that is so strong that it literally handicaps us. I
Yeah.
feel like that's what causes us to feel like, hey, you know what? If I hitch myself onto someone else's dream, onto someone else's project, that let's say it doesn't come through, it technically wasn't me. And we're kind of like tricking ourselves, making us think that, well, I didn't fail because it wasn't me. It wasn't my thing.
Right. But do you find yourself wanting to hitch onto other people's dreams? Because I know that I am a strong number 2, and that's an Enneagram 2. So I'm a helper. So I love to see someone's vision and I can make it execute. Some of that is my creative side, but you're not a number 2. You're a number
So for
3.
me-
So do you even find yourself wanting to attach to
Yeah.
other people's?
Yeah, so for me, it's actually not even it's actually not even the thought of like I want to attach myself to someone else's dreams. Like I consider myself like a finisher. So I actually take pride and joy in actually helping things get finished, get done, where I actually partake in that. So I don't feel like I did their thing. I feel like I partnered up with other people and joined them in fulfilling their dream. And fulfilling their dream, I actually came and said, well, here's what I see. Here's the thoughts that I have. I like to jump onto that and feel like, hey, we almost come hand in hand in saying, we finished this.
Because you're an executor.
Yeah.
So that's where you get that enjoyment. It's like
Yeah.
you came alongside them and helped them execute this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. So let's continue listening back to what we were talking about back then.
Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? I was just kind of frustrated. 'Cause I'm
And
like,
that's when I got defensive of, yeah, but babe, this is like no stress for me. They give me the content. I think of a caption. I do the, footwork for the hashtags to figure out which ones work. And once a day I pop on there, get the picture, cut it up a little bit, put a filter on it, put a quote, and I hashtag away, and I'm done.
Yeah, I get it.
Like
I get it.
was, and I was telling you, like, it's way less stressful to push someone else's business as opposed to pushing my business, which has been hair for the last 10 years. And when I look at a picture, I'm like, oh, I don't like that curl, or man, it looked way better in person. I'm not posting this. Or I have pictures for days that I just don't feel like is Instagram worthy, or, you know, all this kind of, so it's so much more pressure when you're trying to do something that it comes from your soul or comes from your heart or from your vision and your dream.
So, but let me ask you this. Like, what is the thing that's keeping you from doing yours? Like, you know what I mean? Like, during your baby.
It's all that pressure.
So here we are all these years later, and I think it's safe to say you feel the same way.
Low key, but I have, it's like, it's definitely been a learning curve. I have learned a lot about social media. I'm in the space right now where I'm,
Also, you did birth something though in the last couple of years. You started something that you got really good at. You don't even remember. That's crazy.
like, what are you talking about?
Remember?
Oh, balloons. Yeah. I did, after COVID, I did have a whole year and a half of doing a balloon business when I wasn't working in the salon. And it was super fun. And I had a good partner that just said, let's do it. It was a partner that was not afraid. I was more afraid of like, what if we do this and see how many we book and then we'll decide if we want to do it. And the partner was like, no, let's just do it. And I was like, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
but here's the thing, babe. Like, and this is where, like, you know, this is where I want to encourage, even for those of you that are listening that are married couples. Like, you know, we went through a whole thing through our marriage. This is one of the reasons why we stopped the podcast, and you guys are going to hear about it all throughout this season of just episodes. Like, we took a big pause because we realized that Danny Lee, like, babe, you spent so much time just in my shadows.
Yeah.
So you enjoyed just letting someone else take the light, and you just sat there in the shadow, and just wherever the light hit them determined how much you moved. But when you stepped outside of that shadow and you actually birthed something, like, I remember you changing. Like, I remember how excited you were. I remember you'd never slept in. You was waking up. Your brain was moving. You had ideas. You had thoughts. Imagine that feeling of birthing something. That what we talked about earlier. The feeling, the excitement of winning should be greater than the fear of losing. And when you started getting those wins, I mean, you was busy every single week. Matter of fact, I was getting salty. I'm like, hey, you ever gonna come home? Like, but you started making money. You saw it. Like
true.
you saw people being fulfilled. You saw, I mean, you were making parties, dreams come true. But
Guys,
talk about
listen,
that
this
feeling that you
is-
had, like when you finally birthed something.
I am a different Danny Lee than the last time that you saw us on this podcast. I have completely learned a different side of myself after I stepped out of being out of hair for a little while. And I had to find myself and realize how, first of all, creative I actually am, not just in the chair. And that's where I thought my creativity only was. But I learned that I was this different type of creative person. So I started doing balloons and arches and all these other things. And all of a sudden I was starting to, like, I can't sleep because I've got this idea I've got to create and I've got to write these things down and let me see if it's been done on Pinterest before and let me find all these other things. And so really learning myself as a 35-year-old woman and finally allowing myself to step outside of a box I had been in for so long, it really was a huge win for me. And it really was something that I was like, oh, I just found a whole new pocket of myself and finding a whole new part of me that I think I had not allowed myself to find my whole life. And that's a whole episode for a different day. And we'll get back to that one.
Right.
But the win was amazing. And it really was so rewarding to finally feel like those wins that I wasn't having in someone's shadow, that they were wins on my own a little bit. Like it was with a partner, but it was my own thing, completely separate of you. I wasn't your shadow spouse. I wasn't getting those calls because you called me or you connected me with someone. Like that was just my raw talent and creativity on display. And it was incredibly rewarding.
And here's what I want to say. Like, I think sometimes we forget that feeling that we have, that feeling that you received of like, man, this was a win. This was a success, right? That success births success, right? That feeling that Michael Jordan used to get when he would win a game, that's what got him in the court again to win a game. Losing a game is not what encouraged them. It was winning a game. You had that feeling. It was just like, I know what that feels like. And as even for us, right, as we're stepping into this new season for us, like as a married couple, as a young family, right, we're raising kids in a crazy world, right? And like for us, that feeling of like when our kids, like when our kids at night, when our 3-year-old's saying like, Daddy, can you pray? Right. And I walk out and the 9-year-old's like, can you pray? I'm like, can you pray? We're all trying to pray up in here. It's crazy. That feeling, it produces more excitement of just like, wow, what else can I teach them? What else can I do? And like, even for you, babe, like as you started that whole business, right? And you hit pause on it. Remember that feeling that you got when you had that success. Remember the feeling that you got when people actually reached out to you saying like, hey, can you do this again, right? That feeling should trump the feeling of failing again. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
It's so true. No, I do think that it is part of being an entrepreneur and being so calculated sometimes that you don't want to step out and take a risk. But you never get a win if you don't take a risk. And you will never get the shot if you don't take a shot.
Right.
And so I feel like we tell Jordan that, our son, he's almost 10. We tell him that all the time. Like, if you never try, you'll always lose. But if you at least try, you get a chance that you could make the shot.
Yeah.
And so I think as entrepreneurs and wanting to be creatives and having all these different talents and skills, sometimes you put yourself in a box and be like, I'm just going to stay in this box because it's safe. But in actuality, you're never going to find that success or that true passion that you didn't know you had, or these other skill sets that you had kept stuffed in a box the whole time. You're never going to find those full skill sets until you step outside of the court and you get on the field and you find out what's inside of you.
Yeah, that's good. All right, let's keep listening. All right, let's see.
Sure. Like
It's so quick.
to just be a babysitter or a nanny.
That's true.
You clock in, you keep these children alive for 4 or 5 hours, and you clock out. I'm not responsible for their nutritional value. I'm not completely responsible for their behavior, or I actually only go above and beyond for their behavior, what the parents allow me to do.
Yeah, it's
I don't care about their long-term development. I'm not concerned about how many vegetables did they eat today.
I get it.
So
Similar
it's
to us musicians, or a producer, or an artist. If I'm working on someone else's song, if the song flops, or in this
Right,
sense,
it'll come back on you.
Or in this sense, if a baby is a bad baby,
it's a bad baby.
I'm just going, well, it ain't my baby.
Right. It
Just like
doesn't
the
come back
song.
on
Like
you.
if I'm working on someone else's song and it's not mine, the song flop, well, it ain't my song.
But when it comes to your own child, you're like, oh, we're not having that attitude in this house.
Yeah.
You better eat those vegetables because we're going to grow like.
As I'm listening to this, like the first thought that's coming to my mind is like, you treat things differently when you feel like you own it. Like, it's ownership. I think that's the biggest thing. I feel like we're living in a time right now where a lot of people struggle to feel like they want to own something, or actually, as John C. Maxwell calls it, talks about the law of buy-in, right? Being bought into something. If we don't invest, if we don't put our time, if we're not fully having ownership in it, then we don't give it all that we have. And like, I feel like for us, as we're stepping into this new year, I've been thinking about it and processing it more. I'm thinking about even, okay, what are other things that I can invest in? Not just financially, yes, financially, but also even with my time, even mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Like, where are some areas that we can actually feel like we own. So like, there's friends that I've been talking to. They have like some ideas. I have a buddy of mine. He has an idea that he's looking to launch. And I thought I had the other day of just like, man, like how can I come alongside him and partner, actually be in on it, like invest, like as far as like ownership wise. Even as I'm hearing this, I'm like, it's a lot easier to be like, man, that's what's up, bro. Enjoy it, have your time. But if I ask enough questions and make enough suggestions, even him taking steps in the ideas that I gave him, I feel like I owned part of it. Like, you know what I mean? And I think about this too, babe. Like the last couple of days, I've been, for those of you that know me, I've been waking up at 5 a.m. And I have this thought of just like, man, 5 a.m. is so tough. I have a buddy of mine that he's been wanting to wake up too early and go like to the gym, which the last couple of days he's been MIA. But the first week he was showing up every single day at 6 a.m. in the gym. And you know what? I'll tell you this, like it was hard for me to show up at 6 a.m. when I knew somebody else was counting on me. And when he jumped on a scale and showed me that he lost 10 pounds after a week, like I felt like I took ownership in that. And here's the crazy thing is it motivated me.
Right.
Waking up at 5 a.m. became a lot easier.
Because you knew someone was counting on you.
I knew somebody was counting on me. That I partake. Which one is it?
I partook.
I don't know. I just
Yeah,
started using.
partook.
I just started using this word last week. So I feel like, for this year for us, babe, like, like the biggest place where I am mentally and even spiritually, emotionally, like everything, like I want to figure out where can we invest our time in more. Having a baby is now that I'm hearing this, having baby is not always in the sense of like, let's actually birth something from scratch. I feel like there's nothing new under the sun, right? I feel like for me this year, I want to figure out who can I actually co-parent with?
Hmm.
Who can I ask to co-parent my ideas? I have so many ideas and I realize they're not getting birthed because I'm the only daddy.
I do believe that that is a major, major key in executing any dream or any vision or starting a business. Like the people in your corner, they make or break it. And if it's only in your mind and you can't get it out, or like you're not executing, you're not knowing the first steps to go, having someone else come alongside you and say, hey, here's what you should do. Like I just reached out to a friend the other day and I was like, I feel like I need to overcome this hump in my hairstyling career. I've never been able to overcome this hump. What did you do? Like I just started asking questions.
Yeah.
Hey, give me some advice or give me some info. How do I get over this hump that I feel like has always been there in that career for me? And so I 100% think finding a co-parent,
Yeah.
finding someone to come alongside you and birth it with you. In the last 4 years, when we made this episode, that was not the key point of this. The key point was actually to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And now how we have grown in the last 4 years, I think we're realizing like birth that baby, but find you a good, for my moms out there, all my moms that know what I'm talking about, find you a good doula that's ready to, that's like an encourager. You don't really.
I was going to say baby daddy, but doula's better.
The baby daddies, they're not good. Because if they're good, they're husbands. So find a doula that is like that support person for you in labor. They are there to help you in a mental capacity of like, hey, you can do this.
Yeah.
Hey, this is how you got to do this. Hey, put your mind here. Hey, do this position. They're literally there to coach you through the birthing process.
Even us talking about relaunching this channel was hard for us. We talked about it for several weeks. And I realized, okay, here's what we need to do. We need to find other people to come alongside us.
Sure.
And invest their time, right? Their heart, their emotions, mental investments, right? And so even for me, I'm launching something else, right? And I'll tell you guys about it in a little bit or in a few weeks. But I realized the only way I'm going to be able to see this whole baby be birthed and actually grown into a full idea is if I could find other people to come alongside me, people that I trust, people that I know that can actually come alongside me and say, hey, bro, I got you. I have an idea. And their motives is just to see me win. Sure. That number of people is going to be a really short number. It's not going to be a long number, right? But we all know people in our lives that's actually in our amen corner and they're cheering us on. And now that I'm listening to this episode from what we said a couple of years ago, what has honestly paused me in the mindset of like, we're going to have a baby. It was just like, okay, I had some babies. I had some thoughts, but here's where I got stuck. I didn't have anybody to come alongside me to say, hey, here's where I can help you out mentally. People that I can actually touch base with throughout the month and say, hey, I got an idea. I'm stuck. Where can you help me out with? Even the other day, I had an idea. I said, okay, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find 2 people that can actually hold me accountable and say, hey, I'm going to check up on you every 2 weeks to get an update.
It's good.
And that's where I feel like, okay, that's going to be this next phase of like, okay, I got a baby. I want to birth it. Here's how I can actually see it to the finish line.
That's great. And even if it's not like, that's a great idea, even if it's not someone doing something for you, but only holding you accountable, like setting those deadlines. Like even today I was having a meeting and that person was like, hey, if this is our deadline, then that means we need to have this executed by this. And I was like,
right.
I literally said, yes, give me all the dates because I'm not good at that. But this person I was working with is great at that. And I was like, give me my deadlines, give me my dates, put me on track so that we get this executed in the right time and in the right time window. So I think it's great to say, even if it's someone that can help you physically or take on a part of the birthing of your business, but if it's nothing else, find someone that's going to hold you accountable. Find someone that's going to stay on top of you and say, hey, how's that going? Hey, what's that looking like? Hey, where are you at on this?
Yeah. So whether it's a project, whether it's a website, whether it's a business, whether it's family, home, whatever, fitness, health, spiritual goals, whatever it is, like I just believe, and for those of you that don't know who we are, like we are Bible based, Bible believing, like we follow Jesus and all of his teachings.
Yes.
And in our faith, we've learned so much that you cannot walk this out by yourself. You need to walk it along with people. And even for us, babe, even for us, as we're talking through all of our projects, like we're figuring out, okay, who are people that we have in our lives that we can call partners, accountability partners. This is not everyone. This is not just people that just jumped in your hot life, because you know what? Even when you hit rock bottom, even when you go through the toughest times, some people like that will disappear. You have to figure out who are the people that walked alongside you throughout the toughest times. They're the ones that you're to call on. So I want to encourage everyone that's even listening, thinking about this and thinking about starting something this new year, throughout this year, the next year to come, right? It doesn't matter even when you listen to this. I don't know, you maybe listen to this years from now. These principles, these mindsets never expire. It's the mindset of like finding accountability partners. If you're trying to lose weight, find someone that can say, hey, I'm going to show up with you. Or if they can't show up with you, oh, they're not here with me, they're on the other coast. Who cares? Have them know like, okay, every single day I go to the gym at this time. Shoot me a text, give me a call, get an update every single week. Hey, have you lost weight? Hey, where are you at with your health? If you want to get stronger spiritually, right? Find people that are spiritually fit. I heard one guy once tell me one time, he said, never get advice from people who you don't want your life to look like their lives.
So
right?
good.
So if somebody ain't got money, don't ask them what they think about money.
I ain't got no questions for you.
If someone's marriage is not strong, I actually don't want to hear what you think about marriage. If your kids are wild and they are animals,
No advice needed.
I don't want to hear it. Find the people that you admire. Like, man, I love that factor about your life. I have a few questions about that category.
So good.
Everyone's not going to be strong in every category, and that's completely fine.
Okay.
I look at athletes, right? When they're young, they have one coach. But by the time they're professional, how many coaches do they have?
Multiple.
They have multiple coaches because there's other guys in their lives that are experts about certain things. So honestly, I'm done listening to this. I feel like that's my takeaway is like, hey, for this new season, as we're digging deeper in our lives, it's time for us to get partners, accountabilities, and grow stronger together.
We can't do this alone. And I am in a season in my life where I value true friendship and friendship that is on a similar level with me and that can understand what I'm going through or where I'm at in these certain parts of whether it's my marriage, my motherhood, my career. And so all this to say, like, get you good friends, get you accountability partners, but get you people that if you are a believer, you better have your closest friends be believers too, and that they can point you in the right direction. People that are in your life that are good for you will either bring you closer to God. And if they're not good for you, they're going to pull you further away from him. And so I take it very seriously that my close friends are only friends that bring me closer to the Lord. And those are the only people that I want speaking into my life. And if you don't do that for me, that's okay. I'm just going to have different boundaries for you. And so find you a partner, a doula, a baby daddy, within the context of what we just talked about, but whatever it is,
Right.
Find your people. And honestly, we hope we are your people. We hope that this podcast through this new season, that we become your people and that we can become those supporting people, those cheerleaders for you, and that we can help you push out those babies and those dreams that you have. We're going to talk a lot about our marriage, our parenting. There's so many things that we want to share with you in hopes that we can really be a voice in your life. We've lived through a lot of life, and we always wish that we had some people that could maybe speak into things. And so we hope and pray that God allows us to be that for you. So we will see you on the next episode of Let's Dig.